months ago when I started this channel, I had one big thing on my mind. That one thing was simple, looking at and sort of dissecting each film from the award-winning avant-garde director Neil Breen. And with it being 2 months since I started this journey, I should resume it before I forget I even started. So let's look at his second film, I Am Here. Now. But first, let's do a quick recap on my first Neil Breen video on Double Down, which you should totally check out if you're into Breen. So basically what I said is that it was mostly boring and an incoherent mess aside from the wife death scene. So Breen had a lot of room for improvement for his next film, which I think he genuinely did. Now, do I think he improved overall as a filmmaker? Our film opens with a stock Galaxy screensaver thing with stock music, which is pretty typical for Neil Breen, but compared to Double Down, which felt like 30% of that movie was just stock footage and yapping, here it's just around 5%. This movie also has the most badass title card I've ever seen in a film as it fucking explodes its way on screen. After this, we get a bunch of establishing shots in the desert, because as you know, it ain't a Neil Breen movie without a bunch of desert shots. Although I gotta say, the stock music he chose for these shots felt like I was watching Xavier Renegade Angel, which that was pretty cool. So we're shown this weird orb thing and we're introduced to Neil Breen, who's this alien robo-Jesus thing who created the Earth and is mad at humanity for being bad. Also, baby heads in the desert. Yeah, I don't know. I was actually asked about this in an interview, and he literally just said he left it up to the audience. So that's why I consider Neil Breen to be an avant-garde filmmaker. Now we're shown these two drug addicts, and this is where the Oscar-tier acting in Neil Breen movies really begins to shine.
You're crazy! You're crazy!
He knocks him out and steals this guy's clothes and car. Now we get some of that signature Neil Breen yapping with him talking about how much he loves solar and wind power. So now we're introduced to this movie's 4 villains, and this is when Neil Breen fully embraces evil businessmen, politicians, and lawyers as his villains, and we get very subtle political commentary.
Now that we've paid off our fellow elected representatives in the legislature, that environmental solar panel development bill will fail next week.
Now these 2 girls are being laid off because the evil businessman killed a solar power bill. So they choose to be sex workers for this gang, and this gang guy is our 4th main villain, who works for the evil businessman. And if you didn't know they were evil by now, then don't worry, as we're shown the evil businessman talking about their evil deeds. And did you know these guys are evil? They're very evil and bad, and Neil Breen must stop them, as Neil Breen is the supreme moral authority on Earth. Now we get this almost 6-minute long scene where it's the 2 girls satisfying one of the evil businessmen. Now, I might say this scene is 6 minutes long, but it feels like it goes on for 6 hours, as it's just the same shit over and over again. And it came right after this.
No! Don't cut off my ear!
So now we're introduced to this random guy with cancer who lives in what looks like a war zone. And he's only got 1 month to live as
Cancer chemo is kicking my ass.
And Breen makes sure you know that as he plays this exact audio clip several times. So this guy tries to fulfill his dying dream, which is seeing the Las Vegas sign, even though he apparently lives right behind it, so I don't know what was stopping him from going. Look at that, I even found the exact building where they filmed that, and yep, there's the Las Vegas sign literally just a few steps away. Well, apparently it was this guy who pushed the cancer man over, with Neil Breen seeing this and dropping straight facts.
That's just not right.
So he makes his eyes bleed, and I don't know what happens to this guy after this. But now the cancer guy can see the Las Vegas sign, and he freezes these people for some reason, and the cancer guy is really happy now. So now we return to the gang, and they're killing some random guy because I don't know. There's also a bunch of other people with them, and the only one being of note is Eric, who's just this random European guy who just looks like this the whole time. I like him. They also just dub in some random guy for some reason, as I guess there just wasn't enough people on screen. So now we're back with Cancer Guy, who is now in the suburban neighborhood where he has a run-in with these gangsters. But don't worry, our hero Neil Breen is here to save the day. And he does some yapping about how awful those gangsters are, and how humanity sucks, and didn't go as he planned. So he freezes them and makes their eyes bleed, which seems to be the only power he uses, even though he's literally God. So now one of the sex worker girls is talking to her boyfriend, who is also laid off. And they lie to each other on what they're gonna do. Then we get 5 minutes of I don't know. It's just some random stuff Neil wanted in this movie, I guess. We then cut back to Cancer Man, where one of the girls has a fake baby, and that baby drops a toy, with the cancer guy seeing it and giving it back to the fake baby. And this inspired Neil Breen so much he did this. Keep in mind, the cancer guy looks like he's in his 60s.
Go with her. Have a full, long, and healthy, happy life.
Oh no!
So you know that boyfriend guy from like 10 minutes ago? Yeah, he dies after robbing a car that belonged to the gang from earlier. I'd also like to comment on the goofy as hell soundtrack in this movie. Like, yeah, I knew he only uses stock music, but couldn't he have picked literally anything else that sounded more serious than fucking this? Also, the death itself and the scene that comes after it is just sublime. So now the gang apparently suspects that there's an undercover cop among them, even though there's like no evidence that there is one. So they suspect it's this guy with the greatest beatdown in all of cinema. And the funny thing is, the evil businessmen working with the gang actually have somewhat of a conscience and disapprove of their methods. Except for Eric, who simply likes what he sees. With Neil Breen seeing all this, he puts his foot down and frees the guy who's being beaten, and crucifies all the bad guys for being evil. The end. Fuck! So a very common trope of a lot of Neil Breen movies that just kind of started with Double Down but doesn't really go anywhere until this movie is the extremely long epilogues. Now typically epilogues for 80 to 90 minute movies are at most 5 minutes long, and they usually serve as a way to properly close out the movie. Here though, it's around 15 minutes long. To put that in perspective, that's almost as long as the epilogue for the extended edition of Return of the King. You know, a 4-hour long conclusion to a massive trilogy. So you might wonder, what happens in this 15-minute epilogue? He gets with one of the prostitute girls and leaves. That's the 15 minutes described in less than 10 seconds. The end. For real this time. So even though I did come off as sort of negative in some parts, especially with the end, I really like this movie. This is the first Neil Breen movie that truly feels like a proper Neil Breen movie, with all the ups and downs. And if you like So Bad It's Good movies, well, you probably know that Neil Breen exists, and you've probably seen this. But if you haven't, then yeah, check out the first 65 minutes and turn it off after the evil businessmen get crucified. So I've been struggling to come up with an outro for this video, so I'm just going to tease my next video, which is going to be another horror movie, as Halloween is 3 months away. But it's close enough, right? As, you know, I do monthly content, so it's gonna come out in September. Wait, I did 2 videos and it's gonna be out near Halloween. Okay, now as for what horror movie it's gonna be the book. Wait, I can't say it. No, don't think it, don't say it, don't say it, don't think it, don't think it, don't say it, don't say it, don't think it. The Bible, don't say it, don't think it, the Bye Bye Man.